The murder of Lisa Holm. Lisa Helena Holm was born on February 7, 1998, in Skövde, Sweden. She was 17 years old when she died in June 2015. Lisa lived with her parents and younger sister in Skövde, a small town in Västra Götaland in western Sweden. She attended Västra Gymnasiet, a local secondary school where she had recently completed her studies. Those who knew Lisa described her as extremely shy around strangers. She maintained a cautious distance from people she didn't know. Her father said this trait mirrored his own youth. But despite her shyness, Lisa was remembered as happy, caring, and deeply curious about the world. Her high school friend, Tina Ross, said Lisa was a good girl who didn't seem the slightest bit off. Lisa dreamed of traveling and discovering new places. She had plans to pursue higher education abroad, including studying social sciences. She wanted to live in Australia one day. In the summer of 2015, Lisa took on her first part-time job. She worked at a café in Blomberg, a rural area in Götene municipality near Kinnekulla in Västra Götaland. The café was located approximately 20 kilometers from her home in Skövde. Nerijus Bilavicius was born on March 3, 1980, in Lithuania. He was 35 years old at the time of Lisa Holm's murder. Bilavicius was a Lithuanian citizen who had moved to Sweden. At the time of the murder, Bilavicius lived at Blomberg Manor with his wife and brother. He worked as a seasonal worker at a workshed on the Martorp estate, located near the café where Lisa worked. The barn where Bilavicius worked was situated directly across from the café. According to investigators, forensic examination of his computer revealed that Bilavicius possessed pornography. Technical findings showed he had been sexually active in the workshed where he was employed. Ejaculate was found on walls, floors, and in a lamp inside the barn. Sunday, June 7, 2015, began as a normal working day for Lisa Holm. She was scheduled to work her shift at the café in Blomberg. Lisa traveled to work from her home in Skövde on her moped, a journey of approximately 20 kilometers. This was a route she traveled regularly for her summer job. The café was situated in a picturesque area of Kinnekulla, a region known for its rural landscape. Across from the café was a barn, part of the Martorp estate where Nerijus Bilavicius worked. Lisa worked her scheduled shift through out the day. According to all accounts, nothing unusual occurred during her work shift. She performed her duties as normal. At 6:23 p.m. on June 7, 2015, Lisa sent a text message to her father in Skövde. The message stated that she was finishing her shift and was on her way home on her moped. This was the last communication anyone received from Lisa Holm. After sending the text message, Lisa prepared to leave the café. She went to her moped, which was parked outside. The keys were in the ignition. Lisa did not arrive home. Her father waited for her. When she did not show up at the expected time, he became concerned. He drove to the café in Blomberg, hoping she was still there. When he arrived at the café, he found Lisa's moped parked outside, with the keys still in the ignition. There was no sign of Lisa. The father and the café owner immediately searched the café and the surrounding area. They found nothing. At 9:47 p.m. on June 7, 2015, they called the police and reported Lisa Holm missing. Swedish police responded quickly to the missing person report. Officers arrived at the scene and immediately began searching the area. Dog search teams were deployed. Police searched the barn near the café, which had several rooms. The initial search of the barn found nothing of significance. A glove was later discovered there. The police treated the disappearance as urgent. A 17-year-old girl had vanished between her workplace and home on a short journey she made regularly. Her moped with keys in the ignition suggested she had been interrupted while preparing to leave. On Tuesday, June 9, 2015, 2 days after Lisa's disappearance, the search team made discoveries. They found Lisa's mobile phone case, receipts, tickets, and similar small items that belonged to her. These items were found in the area near the café. On June 10, 2015, additional items belonging to Lisa were discovered. A pair of earrings, her license card for her moped, and her house keys were found. One of her earrings was discovered inside the barn near the café. The discoveries indicated that something had happened to Lisa in the immediate vicinity of her workplace. The search intensified. The volunteer organization Missing People Sweden became involved in the search for Lisa Holm. The organization mobilized volunteers who searched systematically in the Blomberg area. Hundreds of volunteers participated in the search effort. On Friday, June 12, 2015, 5 days after Lisa's disappearance, volunteers from Missing People Sweden were searching an area on the Martorp estate. 2 people arrived by car and told the search party that the area had already been searched and suggested they look elsewhere. The volunteers found this suspicious. They decided to continue searching the area and contacted the police. Later that same evening, the volunteers discovered a jacket and helmet belonging to Lisa Holm. The items were found near a work shed on the Martorp estate. Police immediately focused their search on the work shed. Inside the shed, officers discovered Lisa's body hidden in a narrow space in a clothes locker. Lisa Helena Holm was confirmed dead. She was 17 years old. She had been missing for 5 days. Based on evidence presented at trial, Lisa Holm was murdered on June 7, 2015, in a barn in Blomberg. The barn was located across from the café where she worked. This was the same barn where Nerijus Bilavicius was employed. According to the prosecution's reconstruction based on forensic evidence, Bilavicius called Lisa over while she was starting her moped to ride home. He lured her into the barn. Once inside, he attacked her. The court concluded that Lisa had been murdered by hanging or strangulation. Evidence indicated a rope was used. A string was tied around her neck. According to the police report presented at trial, Bilavicius then hanged her body from a ceiling pipe in the barn. Bilavicius also taped over Lisa's mouth. When her body was discovered, her mouth was found taped shut. Lisa was partially unclothed when found. Both her breasts and genitals were exposed. According to the prosecutor, they were unable to find any other clear motive besides a sexual one. The circumstances were considered especially heinous by investigators. Lisa was only 17 years old and physically weaker than Bilavicius. Prosecutors stated that Bilavicius showed great ruthlessness and criminal intent. Police stated that Lisa suffered before finally being murdered at the scene. After killing Lisa in the barn, Bilavicius transported her body to a different location. According to prosecutor Lars Goran Wennerholm's presentation to the court, Bilavicius went back and fetched his car after the murder. He drove around the barn, placed Lisa's body into the car, and drove toward Martorp Farm. The Martorp estate was located a few kilometers from the barn where the murder occurred. Bilavicius hid Lisa's body in a narrow space in a clothes locker in a work shed on the Martorp estate. This was the work shed where Bilavicius was employed. The body remained hidden in this location for 5 days. Following the discovery of Lisa's body on June 12, 2015, police initiated comprehensive evidence collection at the scene and related locations. On June 13, 2015, 1 day after Lisa's body was found, 3 individuals were detained by police. These included Nerijus Bilavicius, his wife, and his brother. All 3 were taken into custody for questioning. On June 16, 2015, Nerijus Bilavicius was formally arrested on suspicion of murder. He was remanded in custody. His brother was released shortly after. His wife was also detained during the investigation, but was later released without charges. Forensic analysis revealed multiple DNA traces linking Nerijus Bilavicius to the crime. Technical evidence showed that Bilavicius's DNA was on pieces of rope and 10 pieces of Lisa's clothing, both inside and out, as well as all over the crime scene. Bilavicius's DNA was found at both the murder scene in the barn and at the body disposal site on the Martorp estate. His blood was found on Lisa's coat and on a piece of rope. Traces of his semen were found in the barn where the murder occurred. Police and the court also found that Bilavicius had no alibi for the day of the murder. Interviews with workers at the Martorp estate disproved Bilavicius's claimed whereabouts during the critical time window. A witness reported seeing a car matching Bilavicius's vehicle driving at high speed from Blomberg toward Martorp on the evening of June 7, 2015. Investigators noted that Bilevicius was one of the two people who had arrived at the Martorp estate on June 12 and told the missing people volunteers that the area had already been searched. This behavior indicated he did not want police to continue searching that particular area. The trial of Nerijus Bilevicius for the murder of Lisa Holm commenced on October 28, 2015, at Skaraborg District Court in Mariestad, Sweden. The trial concluded after 5 days of proceedings in early November. Bilevicius, who was 35 years old, was represented by defense attorney Inger Ronback throughout the process. He denied any connection to the crime. The prosecution argued that overwhelming forensic evidence directly linked Bilevicius to the murder. They emphasized his lack of a verifiable alibi for the evening of June 7, 2015. They presented the crime as having a sexual motive, supported by the victim's partially unclothed state and taped mouth upon discovery. The defense attorney stated that her client had masturbated in the building where he sometimes worked. She told the court, quote, "We know that this is something that sometimes happens in the workplace. He is ashamed of it." End quote. On November 17, 2015, the Skaraborg District Court delivered its verdict. Nerijus Bilevicius was found guilty of the murder of Lisa Holm. The court sentenced Bilevicius to life imprisonment under Swedish law. The court also ordered Bilevicius to pay 150,000 Swedish kroner, approximately $17,700 in damages to Lisa Holm's family. The court's chairwoman, Anna-Karin Lundberg, told the TT news agency after the verdict, quote, "If there had been DNA traces on an item of clothing, that could have been accepted, but there are so many traces, both on the scene of the crime and where the body was found." End quote. Bilevicius was also ordered to be deported from Sweden after serving his sentence. Lisa's family attorney, Tor Brantler, stated that the family wanted to know why Lisa was the killer's victim. He said, quote, "It's just the offender who can answer it, and it is one of the many questions still being unanswered. It is sad that he will not tell you why he did it, and the circumstances around it. Lisa is and will remain dead, but it is important for the grieving process." End quote. Bilevicius's attorney, Bjorn Hurtig, filed an appeal to the Court of Appeals on April 15, 2016. The grounds for appeal included the argument that someone else had helped commit the murder or removed the body, such as Bilevicius's wife. On May 2, 2016, the Gotha Court of Appeals declined to grant a new review or trial. The life sentence became final under Swedish law. On July 4, 2016, it was announced that Bilevicius would be placed at Norrtälje prison, a high-security facility in Sweden. He was transferred there to begin serving his life sentence. While incarcerated at Norrtälje prison in Sweden, Bilevicius was repeatedly assaulted by other inmates. The nature of his crime made him a target. He was beaten up many times by other inmates. On February 7, 2017, Bilevicius was assaulted with hot water by other inmates in the prison workshops. He was drenched in boiling water on this and other occasions. These attacks resulted in injuries that required medical treatment. Bilevicius spent periods in isolation for his own safety. Bilevicius applied to serve his sentence in Lithuania, his home country. Under the EU framework decision on the transfer of prisoners, convicted persons can request to serve their sentences in their home countries to aid rehabilitation. In September 2017, Bilevicius was transferred to Lithuania to serve the remainder of his sentence. On May 3, 2017, Radviliškis District Court in Lithuania issued an order recognizing the judgment of the Swedish Gotha Court of Appeals regarding Bilevicius's life imprisonment. However, the Lithuanian court decided to combine the sentence with provisions of the Lithuanian Criminal Code. The Radviliškis court qualified the crime committed by Bilevicius as deliberate murder under paragraph 1, Article 129 of the Lithuanian Criminal Code. The court sentenced him to 15 years of imprisonment, to be served in a penitentiary. According to Lithuanian law, this was the maximum sentence for such an offense. A prosecutor in Lithuania appealed the Radviliškis District Court ruling. The prosecutor requested that the court leave in force the life imprisonment sentence that was imposed by the Swedish Gotha Court of Appeal. On June 14, 2017, the Šiauliai District Court heard the prosecutor's appeal. On December 14, 2017, the Šiauliai Regional Court issued its ruling. The court ruled to admit the Swedish Gotha Court of Appeal's judgment and implement it in Lithuania. The Sialai court decided to harmonize the Swedish ruling with the Lithuanian criminal code. The court determined that Bilavicius committed a criminal act under paragraphs 2 and 6 of the second part of Article 129 of the Lithuanian Criminal Code. Under these provisions, life imprisonment is possible in Lithuania for murder committed with specific aggravating circumstances. The Sialai court ruled life imprisonment for Nerijus Bilavicius. The sentence was to be carried out in prison. The life sentence was upheld and became final in Lithuania. Following the December 2017 ruling by the Sialai court, Bilavicius continued serving his life sentence in Lithuania. He was initially placed at Lukiškės prison in Vilnius. After that facility's closure in 2019, he was transferred to Marijampolė Correction House, a prison facility in Marijampolė, Lithuania. As in Sweden, Bilavicius was harassed and attacked by other inmates in Lithuanian prison. The nature of his crime, the murder of a 17-year-old girl, made him a target. Other inmates knew about his case, which had received extensive media coverage in both Sweden and Lithuania. On August 3, 2022, at approximately 6 p.m. local time, Nerijus Bilavicius was stabbed to death by another inmate at Marijampolė Correction House. The attack occurred in the prison yard during a walk period. Another inmate, identified as Robert Rowland, stabbed Bilavicius in the neck with an improvised knife during an altercation. Bilavicius died from his wounds while being transported to a hospital. He was 42 years old. He had served approximately 7 years of his life sentence. Following Bilavicius's death, his former mother-in-law spoke to Swedish media. Bilavicius and his wife had divorced a couple of years earlier, after his deportation to Lithuania in 2017. When Swedish newspaper Expressen reached his former mother-in-law about his death, she broke down in tears. She stated, quote, "It feels as if I have been hit in the head," end quote. The former mother-in-law blamed the Swedish court for Bilavicius's death. She told Expressen, quote, "If he had not been sentenced to life, he would have been alive today," end quote. Bilavicius's ex-wife had stated during interviews in 2015 that she was convinced of her then-husband's innocence, and had not hesitated for a second in believing him. Lars Johansson, the retired commissioner who was head of the investigation into Lisa Holm's murder, commented on Bilavicius following his death. Johansson described Bilavicius as a calculating type of perpetrator. He stated, quote, "He was probably quite cold-hearted anyway. From what we had understood, he gave directives to both the brother and the wife to give him an alibi," end quote. Johansson noted the strength of the DNA evidence, saying, quote, "That's when the DNA matches started to fall in. Then we were pretty sure it was the right guy. It wasn't just a DNA match, there was a lot of it. And there was also mixed DNA between him and Lisa Holm," end quote. The disappearance and murder of Lisa Holm received widespread media attention in Sweden and Scandinavia. The case became one of the most publicized crimes in Sweden due to several factors. The victim was a young girl. The circumstances of her disappearance were alarming. The massive volunteer search effort was unprecedented, and the dramatic discovery of her body captivated the nation. The case highlighted the effectiveness of volunteer organizations like Missing People Sweden in assisting police with missing person cases. The volunteers' persistence in searching the Martorp estate, despite being told to leave, directly led to the discovery of Lisa's body and the identification of the suspect. The murder had a significant impact on the small communities of Blomberg, Kalby, and Skövde. The case raised discussions about rural safety and the vulnerability of young people working in isolated areas. Memorials were held in Lisa's honor in the community. The café where she worked became a focal point for public mourning. Lisa Holm's murder remains one of Sweden's most well-known criminal cases from the 2010s. The case is studied in discussions of forensic evidence, the role of volunteer search organizations, and victim support systems. The Holm family received the compensation ordered by the Swedish court. The case prompted discussions about support services for families of murder victims in Sweden. As of 2026, Lisa Holm is remembered as a young woman whose life was tragically cut short at age 17. She is buried in Skövde, Sweden. This has been the documentary account of the murder of Lisa Holm.